Jake Ellenberger here, talking about routine. This guy's a master at routines as he works out every single day, no matter what, whether on training or off training. So, hey, I'd love to hear more about routines. So what is your routine, whether off season or on season?
It's interesting because you can apply it to really anything, and for me, especially when it comes to fitness and fight training, I do something every day. Whether it's, whether it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or it turns into 3 or 4 hours, just depending. But routine is vital. It is extremely important. And really anything you do, whether it's with business, athletic competition.
Right.
One of my coaches actually was kind of a mentor of mine in college, and he was so big on routine, warm up routine, cool down routine. So it was like every single day, you know what you're doing, and it's vital though.
Yeah. So like, what if like it's game time for you? So you got a big fight coming up. So like, what is like how important is routine, and also like how is your routine different or change? Is it more structured, or is it or you change things up a little bit? Like, how does that?
Well, I'd say like some of the smaller things smaller details get implemented closer towards the fight. But that's really the big thing with routine is that it should be, familiarity is like, especially when you before a fight, pre-fight warm up, it all should be the same. You should be doing the same thing, so nothing should change.
Okay.
When you get close to competition, but I would say like smaller things, little details. Depending on how you feel, you can make adjustments, but everything else is you're completely familiar with by the time you get to the competition.
Right. Well, that's super important because I think a lot of people, what they do is they'll maybe try to kick it up a notch when it is really, really important. But then they don't have the training or the discipline before then, the hours of discipline to really work hard at something before that goal is achieved, right? So like, for example, like say if you got a big fight coming up next month and you just started training like 3 weeks ago, and you haven't trained since then, it's going to be hard for you to get back to get to the level where you need to be, right? Or even the discipline, like maybe one day you'll just maybe not work out one day because you don't have the discipline beforehand. So essentially you're creating a discipline to be consistent.
I actually have a couple answers, but one is that self-reliance. That's a big thing too, with being able to consistently replicate. Because taking it a step further, like when we get into tactic, strategy, how you're going to approach a certain opponent, like that's when routine becomes why it's so important, because now you can make adjustments for a specific opponent. But even deeper than that, like when you add the emotionality of it, like the emotions, that's when it starts to. Emotion will clog your. It's not a good thing. It'll usually work against you. That's why. When you go into, they always say you're gonna fight. Your fight's gonna go how you train, or it's gonna come down to your training.
Right.
So you see guys get hurt and they go on cruise control or whatever. But it's all it's the stuff where you've been writing in training. So it's like you're only gonna do. You can't expect a different result if you haven't put it in training, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't done it. And like I said, like the emotionality, taking it a step further.
Right.
If you haven't been there, if you haven't felt that way before, that's going to cause a little bit of turbulence. But that's why I think routine is so vital. Yeah.
Well, that's really important because, like as you mentioned, the just the emotional part of it, right? Because that's something a lot of people don't think about. Especially when you get into even like for business, right? Because people don't either have the emotional capacity either to start a business or like for you to get, to potentially get punched in the face at some point, right? I mean, that could be, or go against an opponent, whether it's business or like physical fighting. I mean, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, even here, like listening to, to Charlie Munger and to Warren Buffett talk about errors, errors can be fatal.
Yeah.
Especially with a fight, like there's no room for error. So really, for us, we even when training, you look at guys, I training wrestling with guys in college, and they go on to be national champions, and really just training to be mistake-free. So that's really what competition is we're going to be mistake-free.
Yeah.
And, you can relate it, especially I see these guys.
It takes that one punch and you could get knocked out.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. So it's like, even with business and the guys, these guys talking about being able to make investment decisions and take the emotion out of it, it's so similar to competition and what I do, it blows my mind.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate that. Cool. Anything else? Any words of wisdom to part 2 for anyone who's maybe fearful, is trying to break out?
Compete with yourself.
Yeah.
That's some of the best advice I ever got was create a routine and compete with yourself.
Yeah. That's cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Man.